Hey Buckler fans, so I did Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within weekend, didn't I? And here's how that went down. So before I start, I want to point out I did this Unleash the Power Within weekend 20 years ago. A lot has happened since then for old Tony. This is before, he got Me Too slightly wrong and all that stuff. So, bear that in mind when I tell you this. This is the 20-year ago. He may have changed it since then, is what I'm saying to you, and he probably has. Before I forget, the best technique for getting an endorphin release is hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. It does me the world of good. You'll find it'll help you. Do it now on this channel. Just hit subscribe. And like. Hit like and the effect gets doubled. My first encounter with Tony Robbins was not his seminar, it was his book, Awaken the Giant Within. Picture the scene. I'm a teenage lad working in a theatre box office, ticket service, and next door to it, it was on Covent Garden, so next door, we had the Mysteries bookshop, and I popped round there one day to get my self-help fix, and I bought Awaken the Giant Within. This was the clunky 90s version of the book, when he's on the cover with the side parting and the slick down hair. He looks terrifying on the front. He looks like a ventriloquist doll that's going to change your life. He's there. I remember bringing the book back to the office and sitting next to my mate Sam, who worked there. Sam was this northern lad. He just took one look at it and went, well, that book's never bloody real, is it? Just going off this terrifying cover. Tony leering at it like the thing at the end of the thing. Anyway, I read the book and I liked it fine, and it spoke. It was a good read, and there was stuff in it that seemed to work. Little things that I applied that did seem to make a difference to my mental state and my physical well-being. And an awful lot of stuff that I've got to be honest just looked too much like hard work. I mean, a lot of stuff that was like I can't conceive how you could be thinking about this while just having a conversation with a mate to try and make him like you. But there you go. These were the days. Very NLP heavy, which I noticed even there, and very full of stories about how he lived in a castle, how he was 25, how he lived in a castle, how he married the girl of his dreams, how he had this dream family, how he would go to work in a helicopter, and how sometimes he would take the helicopter and he would hover it over the school where he used to be a janitor and think to himself, that was me some 10 years ago, and now I live in a castle and here I am hovering about like a kind of self-help stalker. But these stories fired up my imagination. I wanted a castle. I wanted my dream wife. I wanted to have an helicopter to fly to work on. God knows where you park it in Covent Garden. So, cut forward a good few years, and he's coming to town with the Tony Robbins Roadshow, and my friend, a brilliant friend of mine, managed to get us cheap tickets. He'd done it before and got on a deal, so it was only like 250 quid. I went along. There was 4 of us in our little group, and we had good tickets and all. We didn't have the VIP right down the front. We were only one stage back, so we were only like 15 rows from the stage. It was incredible. We arrive at this aircraft hangar in the East End of London. Now, first things first, I'm walking down. You walk down this sort of corridor to get to it, and you can hear the music pumping from like 10 miles away. You hear the music when you park up. Upbeat tunes are playing. It's like you're going into a rave. You are literally going into a rave, by the way it's set up. But yeah, you walk down this corridor, and lining the walls are the Tony Robbins volunteers getting you charged up, giving it the kind of, come on, give it some clap. Your life's about to change. Woo, I'm talking to you and I'm talking to you. It's all going to get better. Yay. We're all giving it you can't help it because they're shouting at you. So you're like, yeah, well, I'll give it a bit of clap as well. I'm a little bit of, get in the room. The music hits you like a wall of sound. It's an aircraft hangar. It's packed. It might as well be Wembley Stadium. There's 9,000 people in there. And they're all up and dancing and giving it this and giving it. And what the first thing I noticed was a close-up magician that I know, that you'd know, was there. He was at the back giving it the dancing. And I'd known he'd done it before. This was like his third go at it because he talked about it to anyone that would listen. And this was like must have been his third time. But there he was, fair enough, getting his Tony fix. We'll come back to this. Giving it his Tony fix, dancing away. I'm heading down the front to our seats. We're having a blast. It is a blast. We're dancing, but no sign of him yet. And I've got some prat in my ear behind me giving it the, come on, Tony, it's time to start the healing. Where are you? I mean, come on, guys. Like a real Wally. And, yes. So we're dancing about. Then it hits the music. The lights sort of do a bit of a flutter. And this tune kicks in. Dun, 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 dun. Big tune of the time, blaring out from these mega speakers. And on he comes from the side like a self-help Michael Flatley, launching at the stage. You all ready for this? Dun, 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 dun. He comes launching on, doing this weird clap that he does, where he's sort of like, most people sort of clap like that. He sort of pounds the bases of his hands together like this. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, electricity, mate. I mean, it is a punch in the head when he comes out. The energy's pumping out. It does hit you like this wave of positivity. Whoa! He goes. We all go, whoa! He goes, boom! Lightning bolt through the room with the special effect. He's ready to start. Are you ready to start? Yeah! Everyone's got, yeah! Madness ensues. Then he starts his rap. He's got his seminar thing. He's doing 3 days, Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday. And he's on stage for all of it. He doesn't leave the stage. An hour a day he's gone. Or is he? Or is he? We'll get to that in a bit as well. So he's talking about how shit life is. The first day is a bit of a kind of like, this doesn't work and that doesn't work. You've tried that and you've tried it. Standard kind of structure for these things, kind of bum you out a little bit and then build you back up with the new thing that you're learning. Life will never be the same again, which is what he had us chanting on the Friday night, because Friday night is firewalk night. You're going to walk across a fire pit. You're going to confront your fears and you're going to go across this fire pit. They're burning the coal right now in the car park. Now again, this is pre-lawsuit, Tony Robbins. There are accounts online of this going very, very wrong. Check them out. But I don't care at the time. I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm in the Tony Robbins presence, and if this man told me that drinking a glass of his urine would fix me, I'd have said yes. I was that unhappy. Do you know what I mean? And this is the thing, that's his target market, isn't it? The unhappy. He doesn't have to sell his stuff to the happy because they're happy. So, and I wasn't then. So, he gets us all pumped and psyched. He's talking about how the mind controls the body. There's value in all of this stuff, by the way. I'm not dissing him. There is value in this stuff. And it's Stephen Fry. A friend of mine's constantly pointing out to me that Stephen Fry describes these things as the art of the most screamingly obvious. It makes your head bleed, which is true, except that it's only screamingly obvious when you've had a decent education and you've been taught these things by a parent. If you haven't, it's not screamingly obvious. Your neurology, your nervous system is not wired well, and you occasionally do need someone to help you see that. And there were things that I saw over the course of the weekend that I'd never seen before, and I will be eternally grateful for that, amidst the other stuff. So, he's got us all pumped. We're all going to be thinking about, he talks about how to change our state by changing our physiology. And there's truth in that. That's one of the things I've taken away from it. Because just talking about him now and giving it all this, I feel better already. It does work. So he's got us all pumped up. He's got us chanting, cool moss, cool moss. We're going to go out there and walk on this fire. And that's the end of the thing. You walk on the fire, back to your car, home, back the next morning for a bit of tone. So he's left us out of the room by this chant. He's got music cues building up behind him. He does this chant about how after tonight, life will never be the same. Life will never be the same. We're all doing it. Life will never be the same. Tony, life will never be the same. And life will never be the same. Not after tonight. We all pile out into the car park. There's the fire. Fuck that. Oh, you can feel the heat off of it. Do you know what I mean? You're stood there with your bare feet looking at this thing. Cool moss, cool moss, cool moss. Fortunately, I also have, it's no secret that I know a lot about the conjuring arts, and a part of the conjuring arts is you learn an awful lot of how scams and things work. I could never listen to a medium ever again, and so I had enough carny knowledge to know that I was not going to get hurt. I know the physics behind this. You can walk across the hot fire, and it ain't going to burn. If you keep your feet moving, it's not going to burn you because of physics and heat transference. The fact that the ash has got a layer on it. Because later on he would screw up by doing this on the wrong asphalt in America. It was quite a famous story. So that the heat was actually channeled up into people's feet and they were falling left, right and centre. Screaming. Because their feet are on fire. You would. But at this instance, it was all well done. And I went across the coals, fine, no problem to the likes of me. I did sort of slightly veer off at the end because even though intellectually your feet aren't going to get burnt, part of your back brain is fucking, is going, you know what I mean? Come on, mate, this is nuts. No need to do this. But I did it, and I felt brilliant. Come off the other end, you're high as a kite. Do you know what I mean? The endorphins are pumping out. You do feel like, oh my God, if I can do that, what can't I do? I can do anything. Because your brain equates that to filling in a tax return and starting a business and putting in a shift. So, away we go. I'm high, I'm happy, I'm loving every second of this. Next day we're back in. Tone lays it on us. He's talking about beliefs and the building blocks of beliefs and knocking out the legs of a table that's got your belief on it, your negative beliefs, and how you can change your beliefs by changing your physiology, your focus, your thing. And he's doing the book live, but he's cut out the crap bits. So we do that on the next day. We change our beliefs and we get up to the big one, which is this exercise where you get in touch with your biggest limiting thing and you unleash the giant within. You do this process that involves jumping around, sticking your finger up your nose. I'm not making that up. Sticking your finger up your nose, talking to yourself in a squeaky voice, then jumping over here and doing the opposite in a powerful voice, giving it the gestures, giving it the power poses. He's on stage shouting at you while you're doing it. And we did that, and I went through my core limiting belief, and I did the process, and in that moment it worked. But here's the thing. Here's the first bit of negativity. In that moment it worked, but it did not stick. It lasted about a week, you know. Well, there's more to come on this. But for my personal experience, it lasted about a week. Last day, we piled back in. We've done some goal setting. We've worked out what we want. We've made eye contact with strangers and radiated pure love at them. That's how it sort of ends. He ends it on a very mushy note. You end up, he's got music playing. Do. It's all very lovely. Make eye contact with a stranger and just radiate love at them and feel their love coming back. And I'm looking around for anybody that I can make eye contact with. But eventually my eyes set on this lovely bloke. He's looking back at me. He's radiating love at me, which is very powerful. I'm trying to radiate it back at him. Very, very beautiful. People are hugging. You know, it's nice. People are exchanging phone numbers. It all ends lovely. And then he does us all sit in our chairs and close our eyes. He talks us through this hypnotic process to try and get everything we've learnt on the weekend locked into our brains when the lights go down. Now, I think it's different now. I watched that I Am Not Your Guru documentary on the Netflix, which is a strange watch. Because all the time I'm watching that, I'm thinking, you made this, right? This is your work. And it's making me not like you as much. Because you see him do things on that documentary that, I mean, I call it like at one point he's got a girl in front of him and he's talking to her about she's got to dump her boyfriend right now. Get your phone out. Get your phone out. Where is he? Let's get him down here. Get your phone out. She dumps the boyfriend. And then in the end of it, with the recap of what happened next, it turns out they didn't really split up. And, you know, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? And then they sorted out whatever was wrong with him. There's some stuff like that he does that's a little bit, all right, mate, I don't buy this. I bought it at the time. All of the stuff that happened, I bought at the time when I was in the room. It's only thinking back on it now that I'm thinking, right, that was a bit dodgy. This was a bit dodgy. In retrospect, from the non-dual perspective that I now occupy. So we're all sitting down and he's doing this hypnotic thing. Or is he? Because I didn't even think about this at the time, but afterwards I chatted to my mate Andy. He did it the session after me when he came back in a few months. And he pointed out that, you know, he's not there for that. Like when the lights go down, he just leaves and puts on a tape. That's a tape playing, that hypnotic thing. And he's not even there. And then he's off having a cup of tea and doing whatever he's doing round the back. Never occurred to me that until chatting to Andy about it. Andy had the funniest experience. He remember telling me, like, did you enjoy the 3 days? He went, no, I enjoyed the 2.5 that I was there before I broke my ankle by falling off the chair because he had me standing on it, dancing like a prat. So, like, Andy was dancing away, fell. There were those flipper chairs. His leg went down, frat. And that was him out of the option. Missed the end of it. I could just see him doing it as well. I could just see him going back to his car. No, I'm hurt. I'm going back to my car. I'm going home. No. A line's been crossed. So what did I learn from it? Well, some of the stuff has stayed with me. A lot of his metaphors were very good. And they still apply now. Little things to get me going when I'm down. The physiology stuff was great. The idea of changing your state can change by moving your body far swifter than it can by moving your mind is one of his axioms. That stayed with me. I've used that to get myself out of a funk before now. Very interesting. I had my first ever major car crash about 2 weeks after it. Me and my brother were in my car on the M25. Got rear-ended. And I handled it like a boss. I mean, I ended up facing the wrong way in the fast lane. But I handled it. I was so calm through the whole thing. I handled it. I handled my brother. I managed to get the car to the side, get everything sorted out, and with no panic. And it was a fairly major. I mean, the back of my car was smashed off. I nearly died. And I remember my brother saying, "I can't believe, given what you're like, given how you normally are, like when you can't find your sunglasses, I can't believe you're handling this the way you're at." And I believe that I handled it that well because I was 2 weeks out of Tony Robbins, and the tools worked. I applied some of the tools and they worked. But this is the problem. Like all drugs, it wears off. This is the bad side of it. Like all drugs, it wears off. So I'm doing an exercise with this guy. You find a random person to do the exercise with. And he's looking at me. I'm looking at him. Are you all right, mate? Let's do this thing. Let's get it on. And he looks at me and he looks, I don't mean to be rude, but he looked like Gollum. He looked like he had that haunted. He looked like a drug. He just looked like he was haunted. His pale face, his desperate eyes, his body language, the movements of his hands. He was a nervous wreck. And he says to me, "How many times have you been?" And I went, "What, to this?" And he went, "Yeah. How many times have you been?" And I went, "First time, mate. I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. How about you?" "This is the 5th time for me. I'm really hoping that I get it this time." Now that stuck in my head. When he said that, the whole weekend changed for me. I was having an absolute blast up until that point. I would have become a Tony Robbins advocate and envoy. I'd have been one of the volunteers down the side clapping like a loon as you were coming in. "Come on, guys, get pumped." But for that, when he said that, I thought, Jesus. And I know he's not the only one, because as I said earlier in the video, I've clocked the magician that I know. So now I'm looking around this room and looking at these people and seeing the ones that some of these people are loving it. And they're all loving it, but some of them I'm thinking, this is your fix. This is your Tony fix. He can stand up there all he likes and say he's not your guru, but he is. You know what I mean? He's on stage with the lights and the flowers. He can say that he's not here to change your life. He's here just to give you a toolbox. People don't hear that. They hear what they want to hear. There's people in that room believe he is there to change their lives. And this poor bugger was one of them. 5 times. I did the maths. The money he spent, this poor sod. Hoping I'll get it this time. What was he hoping for? Like a lightning bolt from the stage to hit him and make his life suddenly work. See his face now. Poor bugger. So that. And then Tony's saying things like, "I don't believe in pump up." He's had us doing this for 3 days straight. And then he's saying, "I don't believe in pump up. I don't believe in that. It doesn't work. It doesn't." No, fair enough. But you can't deny with this music playing and the fact we've been jumping on our chairs and having water fights, there's not been a fair amount of pump up going on in the course of this. And when you're most exhausted, you're most happy. You're at the end of that 3 days. It's basically, it is a rave. You're exhausted, as I understand. Actually, says he who's never actually been to a rave, but friends who had a more fun time in the 90s have told me anecdotally. At the end of the 3 days, you feel wrung out, but you're happy. You're buzzing. You're tripping. You're happy. You're high on your own supply, but you're physically exhausted. You've put in 3 solid days of non-stop dance. And that's when he hits you with the sales pitch for the advanced courses and the weekend in Hawaii. And I didn't begrudge him at the time. I thought, he's done. I don't begrudge him this hour of sales pitch after the shift he's put in. But again, thinking back on it, that's the time to hit people at their most exhausted. They're most, they've not proven the stuff yet. They've had a great time in that room with him, but the stuff has not been proven in life. And they're already signing up for the advanced one to go to his private island or whatever it was in Maui and spend 10 grand. And they mob them back desks. You signed up in the room. They mob them back desks to sign up for the advanced courses. Nothing wrong with selling your stuff. Do you know what I mean? But again, sitting from that, when I was back there then, fine with it. Sitting here, looking back on it now, it just feels something off there. A disturbance in the force. The other thing that doesn't fit right with me is some of those interventions that he does. Now, when it happened in the room, I thought he was a miracle worker. He asked for a show of hands. Anyone who's been through a rape or a sexual assault or some massive trauma, up go the hands. And he picks this girl. Up she comes. and he's asking her questions about what happened. Not details, but how she feels about what happened more than anything else. And he gets into her physiology, and you can see she's upset. And then he's literally grabbing her by the head and shouting at her. Not in an aggressive, but to break her state, you know. And it's funny when he does it, and it's massively entertaining. This is the thing, it's entertaining, but this is a girl on stage with real trauma. Should it be entertaining? And he gets her doing the process. He changes her physiology, and then he brings her out of it, and then back into it, and out of it, and back into it. And at the end of it, she's apparently fixed. She now thinks about this traumatic experience, and it doesn't affect her in one way or the other what's happened to her. Her life is now an open book, and she's fine. Everyone's dancing! Dun, dun. Everyone's dancing while she goes back to her seat. Everyone's cheering her. And at the time, it looked amazing to me. I watched, Jesus, this man's a miracle worker. He's changed her life in 30 seconds. I can do that. Now I've got these skills. And then but it hits me now, looking back on it. How do I know that her life was fixed? There's no follow-up. How do I know that she didn't get home and straight back into it? Do you know what I mean? Because I know an awful lot more now than I did then about what trauma actually is. And how it affects your brain, how it affects your body, how it affects everything, the people around you. And I don't buy that. That it can be fixed in 30 seconds. That doesn't sit right with old Buckles. I believe it can be fixed. I believe it can be healed. I believe in transformation. 100%. But not in 20 seconds with an 8-foot tall giant screaming at you that all you've got to do is change your physiology. You know what I mean? That doesn't sit right. I've done some looking around since, and apparently these stories, but these interventions, there might be some fuckery there. You know, there might be some malarkey going on. I'm not saying there is. I'm not saying there isn't. I don't want to get this video taken down, but it doesn't sit as well with me as it did in the moment that it happened. So what happened afterwards? Well, I used the stuff. I came out of that room believing I really was feeling amazing, feeling brilliant. I did all the things. I had to do a toll bridge on the way home. I paid for the guy behind me to go through the toll bridge, just to be a happy, a generous, kind man. I was just going for stuff for about a week. It lasted. I was up on top for about a week, but then I crashed. Now I know more about brain chemistry now, particularly my own, which is a little extreme, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. By the way, you know what I mean? You know, everyone's got something. But I did crash. I had a week of being of feeling incredible, and then like all drugs, it wears off and you crash. And it fades. Like all things, it dissipates. You forget half of it. You keep 2 or 3 of the key moves, but most of it fades away in time. And in real life happens, you know, and you realise that you're not, that it hasn't stuck. You haven't, and you're that. And again, I can totally get that poor bastard that I mentioned before, this happening to him, and him think, right, next time he comes back, because obviously everyone else that went to the weekend, they were like this forever, and it hasn't stuck with me, so I've got to go back and get another dose. I understand that now, why he would do that. But I enjoyed it. There's some very practical stuff in it. I recommend anyone who's interested in public speaking go and see him, because he's the best I've ever seen at that in terms of conveying a message and getting it succinct and getting it direct and creating the impression he's talking directly to you. Never seen anyone better at it. And I enjoyed the weekend. I enjoyed it. I had a really good time. Great mates that I made there that I'm still friends with now. People that I love. I enjoyed it. And in that moment in my life, in that time, in that place, it was brilliant. It's only now, looking back at it through a more mature lens, through a different perspective, that I see flaws in it, flaws in some of the things that happened, little hints of stuff around the edges that don't sit well. There's a very brilliant video on YouTube that I recommend. I recommend all of her videos. Her name's Mooncat. Superb YouTuber on here. She's done a deep dive on him. Much deeper than this. This is just personal recollections. She's actually gone into it and done the research. Check her out. Check out all her stuff. She's phenomenal. But for me personally, I don't regret doing it. I wouldn't do it again. But I don't regret doing it. It gave me a few tools, 2 or 3 that are still in the toolbox. And, you know, but my path took me on a different journey. There are other ways of being in the world, other ways of relating to the universe that aren't quite as forceful and that suit my temperament more. And I'll be doing some videos on them as well. But those, my friends, are my memories of Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within weekend.